Teach him the price of ignoring you. I am Bonang Matheba. And if you had told me 2 years ago that I would be standing here in my sun-drenched Johannesburg penthouse, sipping rooibos tea while watching the city sparkle below, teaching women across the world how to walk away from men who treat them like options, I would have laughed in your face. Back then, I was the girl who believed love meant showing up no matter what, who thought loyalty was measured in how many unanswered texts I could send before my heart finally gave up. But let me take you back to the beginning, to the night everything felt like magic, because that is where the lesson starts. It was a humid Friday in Cape Town, the kind of evening where the air smells like salt and possibility. I had just wrapped a sold-out hosting gig for a luxury brand launch, my feet aching in 6-inch heels, my smile plastered on for the cameras when I spotted him across the rooftop bar. David, tall, caramel skin, glowing under the string lights, wearing a linen shirt that hugged his shoulders just right. He was laughing with a group of friends, but the moment our eyes locked, the noise faded. He walked over like he had all the time in the world, introduced himself with a voice that felt like velvet, and asked if I believed in love at first sight or if he should walk by again. Cheesy, yes, but in that moment it worked. We talked until the venue kicked us out, then sat on the seawall sharing a bottle of sparkling water because neither of us wanted the night to end. He listened when I spoke about my dreams of building a media empire, nodded when I admitted I was terrified of failing, and when I shivered in the ocean breeze, he draped his jacket over my shoulders without hesitation. By the time he dropped me at my hotel, I was already replaying every word in my head. The next morning, my phone buzzed at 3 a.m. It was him. Still thinking about your laugh. Sleep well, Queen Bee. Queen Bee. No one had ever called me that before. For weeks, it was like living in a romance novel. He would send voice notes just to say good morning, plan surprise picnic dates in the vineyards, show up at my events with flowers that matched my outfit. He remembered that I hated olives but loved truffle fries, that I cried during sad commercials, that my grandmother's necklace was my lucky charm. He made me feel seen, not just as Bonang the celebrity, but as Bonang the woman who sometimes doubted if she was enough. We would lie in bed on Sunday mornings, his fingers tracing patterns on my back, talking about everything and nothing. He told me about growing up in Soweto, how his mother raised 3 kids alone, how he promised himself he would build a life where no one he loved ever had to struggle. I believed him. I believed in us. There were moments so tender they still make my chest ache when I remember them. Like the night he cooked jollof rice in my kitchen, burning the bottom because he was too busy kissing my neck, then laughing as we scraped the pot and ate the good parts anyway. Or the time we drove to Pilanesberg at dawn, parked the car and watched elephants cross the road while he whispered that I was the most beautiful chaos he had ever met. He made plans, big ones. One day, he said, we'll have a house with a wraparound porch and I'll wake you up with coffee on the swing. I started imagining that porch. I started believing in forever. But here is the thing about fairy tales. They do not warn you that princes can turn into ghosts without ever leaving the castle. The shift was so subtle, I almost missed it. One day he was planning weekend getaways, the next he was swamped with work. One week he was calling just to hear my voice, the next my messages sat on read for hours. I told myself it was nothing. Men get busy, ambition is sexy. I doubled down. Sent sweeter texts, planned surprise lunches at his office, wore the red dress he once said made him weak. But the truth is, love should not feel like auditioning for a role you already earned. And somewhere between the unanswered I miss you and the cancelled dinner plans, I started to feel like the girl who was always waiting by the phone, the girl I swore I would never be. That is when the real story began, not with the fireworks, but with the silence that followed. Because sometimes the loudest lessons come in the quietest moments. And I was about to learn that walking away is not giving up, it is growing up. I remember the first time David left me on read for an entire day like it was yesterday. It was a Tuesday, nothing special, just a regular afternoon where I had finished a radio interview and felt on top of the world. I sent him a selfie in the studio, captioning it, "Your girl killed it today, where's my reward?" with a winking emoji. Normally, he would reply within minutes, something playful like, "Reward, I'm the whole prize, baby." But this time, nothing. The message turned blue, then green, then stayed there mocking me. I refreshed my phone, checked my signal, told myself he was in a meeting. By evening, I was pacing my apartment, wine glass in hand, rehearsing casual responses in case he finally texted back. Hey stranger, I typed and deleted. Everything okay? Too needy. Miss me yet? To the spirit. By midnight, I was spiraling. Had I said something wrong? Was the selfie too much? Maybe he hated emojis now. I fell asleep clutching my phone, woke up to silence. The next morning, he finally replied, "Sorry babe, crazy day yesterday. You look fire though." That was it. No explanation, no apology for the worry. Just a compliment tacked on like an afterthought. And stupidly I let it go. Because that is what we do, isn't it? We make excuses for the people we love. We tell ourselves one off day does not mean anything. But then it became 2 days, then 3. The calls stopped coming. The goodnight texts vanished. I would see him post gym selfies on Instagram, but my messages sat unanswered. I started timing my texts like a strategist, careful not to double text, careful not to seem clingy. I hated that version of myself. The Bonang who once commanded rooms was now over-analyzing punctuation marks. One night, I called him 3 times, straight to voicemail. I left a message, my voice shaking. "Hey, just checking in. Hope you're okay." He texted back the next day. "Phone died. Sorry. Phone died. For 12 hours. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But deep down, something cracked, because here is the truth. No one tells you. When someone wants to talk to you, they will. They will move mountains, charge their phone in the car, send a carrier pigeon if they have to. Silence is not absence, it is a choice. And David was choosing over and over again to place me somewhere low on his list. I started noticing the patterns. He would disappear for days, then resurface with charm, turned all the way up like nothing had happened. "Missed you, Queen Bee," he would say, and I would melt. Because that is what love does, it makes you forgive faster than you should. But forgiveness without change is just permission, and I was giving him a free pass to treat me like a backup plan. My friends saw it before I did. Over brunch one Sunday, I casually mentioned how David had bailed on our dinner plans. Again, Thandi put her mimosa down and looked me dead in the eye. "Bonang, men do not go cold because they're busy. They go cold because they're comfortable. You're letting him think he can have you without trying." I laughed it off. "He's just stressed. Work is crazy." But her words stuck. That night, I scrolled through our old messages, the ones from the beginning when he could not go an hour without talking to me. The contrast was painful. I cried in the shower, hot water mixing with tears, asking myself how I had become this girl, the one who waited, the one who settled. But here is what I know now. The moment you start questioning your worth is the moment the universe starts preparing your comeback, because rock bottom has a way of waking you up, and I was wide awake. I wish I could tell you the wake-up call was dramatic, like a movie scene where I smashed my phone and swore off men forever, but real life is messier. It started with a question I asked myself in the mirror one morning, mascara smudged from the night before. "Bonang, is this the love you would want for your little sister?" The answer hit me like cold water. No, hell no. I would have dragged her out of that relationship faster than you can say red flag. So why was I staying? Pride, hope, fear of being alone, all of the above. That day, I did something small but revolutionary. I did not text him first. For the first time in weeks, I let the morning pass without a good morning message. I made coffee, did my skincare, blasted Beyoncé, and went to a meeting. By noon, my phone was still silent. By evening, I was a nervous wreck, but I held firm. No text, no call, no Instagram story designed to get his attention. Just me living my life. Around 9 p.m., my phone lit up. "David, 3 missed calls. A text. Babe, you okay?" Then another. "Did I do something?" I stared at the screen, heart racing. Part of me wanted to reply immediately, to smooth things over, to be the cool girl who did not make a big deal out of nothing. But another part, the part that was tired of shrinking, whispered, "Let him wait." So I did. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, took a long bath, and went to bed. The next morning, there were more texts. "Bonang, talk to me. I'm worried. Call me when you can." For the first time in months, he was the one chasing. And it felt strange, powerful, like I had reclaimed a piece of myself I did not even know was missing. I did not respond right away. Instead, I called Thandi. girl, I said. I think I just started a revolution. She laughed. Welcome to the other side, sis. Now keep going. That week, I started small experiments in self-respect. I stopped canceling my plans when he finally made time. I stopped apologizing for needing more than crumbs. I started saying no, not out of anger, but out of love for myself. And the craziest part? The world did not end. David did not disappear. In fact, he started showing up more, calling just to check in, planning actual dates, asking what I needed, instead of assuming I would always be fine. But here is what I learned, and what I want you to tattoo on your heart. People only treat you how you let them. The moment you stop accepting less, you start receiving more. Not because they suddenly change, but because you do. And when you change, the whole game changes. That was the beginning of my awakening. The moment I decided my heart was not a revolving door. The moment I chose me. And trust me, sister, the view from here is stunning. The first real test came on a Saturday that was supposed to be ours. David had promised dinner at that new rooftop spot in Santon, the one with the fairy lights and the jazz trio, the kind of place where you dress up and feel like the city belongs to you. I had spent the afternoon getting ready, hair in loose waves, that emerald dress that made my skin glow, heels that clicked with confidence. I even texted him a teaser selfie from the Uber. On my way, don't be late. He replied with a thumbs up emoji. That was it. An hour later, I was still sitting at the table for two, sipping sparkling water, watching couples laugh and clink glasses while my phone stayed dark. The waiter kept glancing over that pity smile servers give when they know you've been stood up. At 9:30, the text finally came. Babe, emergency at work. Rain check, no call, no apology, voice note, just words on a screen. Something inside me snapped, not with anger, but with clarity. I was done canceling my life for his convenience. I paid the bill for my untouched appetizer, slipped the waiter an extra tip for the awkwardness, and walked out into the night. The air was cool, the streets alive with music spilling from bars. Instead of going home to cry, I called Thandi. Meet me at Marble, I said. I'm celebrating me tonight. By the time she arrived, I had claimed a corner table, ordered a bottle of Prosecco, and was dancing in my seat to the live band. We laughed until our sides hurt, took selfies with strangers, let random guys buy us shots we didn't need. I posted one photo on Instagram. Just me, glass raised, caption. Solo dates hit different when you realize you're the main event. David saw it. Of course he did. His name popped up in my DMs. Looks fun. Wish I was there. I left him on red. For the first time, I wasn't performing availability. I was living it. The next morning, I woke up without a hangover of regret. I made avocado toast, did a sunrise yoga flow on my balcony, and booked a solo brunch at a cafe I'd been dying to try. No waiting for permission, no checking if he was free. Just me, a good book, and eggs Benedict that tasted like freedom. That afternoon, I went to the mall, tried on dresses I didn't need, bought a candle that smelled like vanilla and confidence. I wasn't filling a void. I was building a life so full that his absence became background noise. By evening, my phone was blowing up. David, calling, texting, even leaving a voice note that cracked at the edges. Bonang, I messed up. Can we talk? I listened to it twice. Part of me wanted to run back, to smooth things over, to be the girl who understood. But the new me, the one who had danced under string lights without him, whispered, let him wait. I replied hours later, calm and clear. I'm good. Enjoy your Sunday. Then I turned my phone face down and painted my nails fire engine red. That night, I journaled for the first time in years. I wrote about the girl I used to be, the one who thought love meant shrinking. I wrote about the woman I was becoming, the one who knew her worth wasn't negotiable. And as I closed the book, I realized something that changed everything. The moment you stop auditioning for someone's attention, you start directing your own story, and sister, the script is glorious. David's panic was palpable by Monday. He showed up at my apartment unannounced, holding a bouquet of lilies like a peace offering, eyes wide with something that looked a lot like fear. Bonang, he said the second I opened the door. I know I've been an idiot. Let me make it up to you. I let him in, but I didn't melt. I didn't offer coffee or a seat on the couch where we used to tangle up for hours. I stood by the kitchen island, arms crossed, and listened. He talked fast, about deadlines, about stress, about how he took me for granted because I was always there. You're my safe place, he said. I got lazy. I nodded. Not because I agreed, but because I was done arguing his excuses. When he reached for my hand, I stepped back. David, I said, my voice steady in a way that surprised even me. Safe places don't get ignored. They get honored. He looked like I'd slapped him. Good. For the next week, I kept the distance. Not out of spite, but out of strategy. I responded to his texts hours later with warmth, but no urgency. Busy day, I'd say. Catch up soon. I went to Pilates, had dinner with my mentor, flew to Durban for a speaking gig. Every time I chose myself, his efforts doubled. He sent Uber Eats to my hotel with a note. For the queen who doesn't wait. He called just to say goodnight, no agenda. He even showed up to my event with a sign that read, "Proud of you, Queen Bee," in glitter. The crowd ate it up. I smiled for the photos, but inside I was taking notes. Was this change real, or was it just the panic of a man who realized the game had shifted? I decided to test it. I told him I was free Friday night, but only if he planned something thoughtful. No last-minute bar hopping, no whatever you want. I wanted effort. By Thursday, he had reserved a private chef to cook us a 3-course meal at his place, complete with a playlist of songs we used to dance to in my kitchen. He picked me up in a suit, opened the car door, handed me a single protea flower. "I see you," he said. "I'm trying." Dinner was perfect. He listened when I talked about my fears of burnout. He asked about my dreams, not just my day. We laughed until the candles burned low, but when he leaned in to kiss me goodnight, I turned my cheek. "I'm not ready," I said. "This isn't about punishing you. It's about trusting you again." He nodded, eyes soft. "I'll wait." As I drove home, windows down, music loud, I felt something new. Power. Not the kind that controls, but the kind that protects. I wasn't playing hard to get. I was being hard to lose. And the difference felt like breathing after months underwater. That night, I texted Thandi. He's trying. But I'm not settling until the effort feels like oxygen, not a performance. She replied with a voice note screaming, "That's my girl. Make him earn the crown." I fell asleep smiling because for the first time, the ball was in my court and I wasn't dropping it. The real magic started when I stopped measuring my days by David's responses and started building rituals that lit me up from the inside. I woke up one morning and decided my bathroom mirror deserved better than tear-streaked mascara. I bought a stack of sticky notes, wrote affirmations in gold ink. I am enough. My peace is non-negotiable. I attract what I deserve. Every morning I read them while brushing my teeth, letting the words sink in like sunscreen for the soul. I started running at dawn, not to lose weight, but to feel my body move like it belonged to me. The first mile was torture. By week 3, I was chasing sunrises, headphones blasting gospel remixes, sweat mixing with joy. I bought a journal with a leather cover that smelled like possibility. Every night I wrote 3 things I was proud of, 3 things I was grateful for, 3 things I wanted to manifest. Some nights it was simple. I said no to a brand deal that didn't align. My mom's laugh on FaceTime. A sold-out masterclass. Other nights it was deeper. I forgave myself for settling. I chose peace over chaos. I am becoming the woman my younger self needed. I started cooking again, not for Instagram, but for me. I made ugali and sukuma wiki like my grandmother taught me, danced around the kitchen in an apron, took messy bites straight from the pot. I invited Thandi and 2 other friends over for a soul food Sunday, no phones, just wine and stories and laughter that healed old wounds. We cried about exes, cheered for new beginnings, promised each other we would never shrink again. I took myself on dates. To the ballet, where I wore a gown and sat in the front row, tears streaming during the final pas de deux. To the pottery studio, where I made a lopsided vase and named it imperfectly mine. To the bookstore, where I bought poetry collections and read them in the cafe until closing. I started saying yes to me and no to everything that dulled my shine. David noticed. How could he not? I was glowing in a way that no filter could fake. My Instagram stories were full of sunsets and smoothies and sold-out events. My laugh was louder. My boundaries were clearer. He texted one night. "You seem different, happier." I replied, "I am. I found my center." He asked if he could be part of it. I said, show me consistency for 30 days, then we'll talk. It wasn't a game, it was a standard. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid to hold it. By the end of the month, I looked in the mirror and saw a woman who didn't need a man to complete her. She was already whole, she was already magic. And that, my love, is the moment you become unstoppable. Because when you love yourself like that, the world has no choice but to catch up. The roses showed up on a Thursday. 36 long-stemmed reds wrapped in black paper, delivered to my office while I was in the middle of a pitch meeting. The card read in David's careful handwriting, I'm sorry for every minute I made you feel small. Let me start over. Dinner tomorrow? I'll cook. My assistant squealed, the room buzzed, but I just stared at the petals like they were evidence in a trial I hadn't agreed to attend. That night I laid them across my dining table, took a photo, and asked myself one question. Do flowers fix foundations? The answer came quick, no. But curiosity is a powerful thing, so I texted back, tomorrow, 7 sharp, bring more than roses. He replied instantly, anything you need, Queen Bee. Friday evening, his apartment smelled like garlic and hope. Candles flickered on every surface, jazz played low, and he wore the apron I bought him as a joke 6 months earlier, the one that said, kiss the cook, but only if she says yes. He pulled out my chair, poured wine, served grilled prawns with a chili lime glaze that made my eyes water in the best way. We talked like the early days. No phones, no distractions. He admitted he'd been scared of how big my light was getting, that success made him feel small, so he created distance to feel in control. I thought if I pulled back, you'd chase, he said, voice cracking. Instead, you walked forward and I panicked. I listened without interrupting. Fork paused mid-air. When he finished, I set it down. David, I'm proud you're saying this, but words are appetizers. I need the full course consistency, respect, presence. Not because I'm keeping score, but because I refuse to starve. He nodded, eyes wet. I hear you. I'm all in. Dessert was store-bought ice cream because he burned the creme brulee, and we laughed until our stomachs hurt. He walked me to my car, hands in his pockets, no kiss, just a soft, thank you for giving me a chance to show up differently. I drove home with the windows down, wind whipping my hair, heart open but guarded. The roses were beautiful, but I wasn't planting my future in a vase. I was planting it in actions, in follow-through, in the quiet integrity of someone who chooses me every single day, not just when the guilt gets loud. That night, I added a new sticky note to my mirror. Apologies without change are just noise. Listen for the music. And for the first time in weeks, I fell asleep without checking my phone. Because peace isn't found in grand gestures. It's built in the steady rhythm of someone proving they deserve the space beside you. The real test came 2 weeks later on the night of my biggest speaking gig yet, a women's leadership summit in Cape Town. 3,000 seats, live streamed to 50 countries. I'd spent months preparing, rewriting my keynote until the words felt like armor. David knew the date, knew how much it meant. He'd even helped me rehearse, timing my pauses, cheering every punchline. The morning of the event, he texted, "Knock 'em dead, Queen, I'll be in the front row." I smiled, pictured him there in his navy suit, holding the sign he'd made last time. But when I walked on stage, the front row was empty where he was supposed to be. My heart stuttered, but the lights were too bright to falter. I delivered the talk of my life stories of rising from doubt, of choosing self-worth over settling, of teaching men the price of ignoring magic. The crowd roared, women cried, phones flashed. Backstage, my team hugged me, champagne popped, but my eyes kept scanning for him, nothing. An hour later, the text came, "Bonang, I'm so sorry. Client emergency in Joburg. Flight got cancelled. I tried everything." Attached was a screenshot of a cancelled boarding pass. I stared at it in the green room, makeup half off, adrenaline crashing. Part of me wanted to believe him, part of me was tired. I called Thandi from the car on the way to the after party. He missed it, I said, voice flat. She didn't sugarcoat. "Sister, emergencies happen, but patterns don't. Where was the plan B? The Zoom? The I'm watching from the airport video?" She was right. I didn't reply to his text. Didn't answer his calls. Instead, I walked into the party in my gold gown, hair swept high, and danced like the room was mine, because it was. Women came up all night, sharing their stories, thanking me for giving them permission to walk away. One said, "I left my fiancé last week because of your last podcast. Tonight confirmed it. I hugged her tight, tears in both our eyes." At midnight, David showed up at the venue, disheveled, still in his work clothes, holding a single protea he must have bought from a street vendor. "I chartered a flight," he panted. "I couldn't miss celebrating you." The crowd parted like a movie scene. I looked at him, then at the women watching, then back at him. "David," I said, loud enough for only us, "I needed you in that seat hours ago, not here for the photo op. Go home." He started to protest, but I walked away, heels clicking like punctuation marks. In the Uber home, I cried not for him, but for the version of me who would have forgiven that in a heartbeat. When I got to my hotel, I blocked his number. Not out of anger, but out of alignment. I unblocked him the next morning because closure isn't cruelty. I sent one message. "I wish you well, but I'm choosing someone who shows up when it matters most me. Take care." Then I turned my phone off and slept for 12 hours. When I woke up, the world hadn't ended. My worth hadn't crumbled. I'd simply drawn a line in the sand and stepped over it into the life I deserved. And let me tell you, the sand on the other side is warm, soft, and entirely mine. The morning after the summit, my inbox was a flood brands wanting partnerships, podcasts begging for interviews, women sending voice notes that cracked my heart open. One message stood out, a group chat from my inner circle, Thandi, Lerato, and Nia, titled Queen's Court. They'd planned a surprise brunch at my favorite seaside spot in Camps Bay, mimosas on ice, a cake that read, "She needed no king." We sat under umbrellas, ocean crashing, and I told them everything, the roses, the summit, the final no. Thandi raised her glass. "To the woman who taught us that walking away isn't losing the plot, it's writing a better one." We clinked, and the stories poured out. Lerato admitted she'd ended things with a situationship who only texted after midnight. Naya shared how she'd started charging premium rates at work because she stopped apologizing for her talent. We laughed, cried, passed tissues like contraband. Someone asked, "Aren't you scared to be alone?" I thought about it, really thought I was, I said. But alone and peaceful beats together and pretending. Every time. We made a pact right there. No more shrinking, no more settling, no more teaching men how to undervalue us. We called it the standard upgrade, monthly check-ins, vision boards, accountability dates. By the time the sun dipped low, we'd planned a retreat in the Drakensberg, just us, no Wi-Fi, no excuses. On the drive home, my phone buzzed with a notification. David had posted a story, a sunset, caption, "Learning the hard way what treasure looks like." I didn't react, didn't need to. His lesson wasn't my responsibility anymore. That night, I hosted an Instagram live from my balcony, still in my robe, hair wrapped in a silk scarf. 10,000 women tuned in. I read their DMs aloud, stories of ghosting, of gaslighting, of finally choosing themselves. One asked, "How do you know when it's time to let go?" I answered without hesitation. "When staying costs more than leaving ever could. When your peace is the price of their presence. Walk, sis." The door you close might just be the one that lets the right love in. The chat exploded with heart emojis. Someone typed, "You're the big sister I needed." I teared up on camera, no shame. Because this wasn't just my story anymore, it was ours. A movement of women refusing to be footnotes in someone else's chapter. Before I signed off, I shared the pact we'd made at brunch. "Upgrade your standards," I said. "Not tomorrow, today. Tag a friend who needs this reminder. We rise together." By morning, number standard upgrade was trending. Women posted selfies with their new boundaries, their block numbers, their peace. I saved every story, printed the best ones, taped them to my office wall like a gallery of courage. And as I stood there, coffee in hand, watching the sunrise paint Johannesburg gold, I realized something profound. The most powerful thing a woman can do isn't teach a man a lesson, it's teach herself that she is the standard. And once you know that, no one can ever make you forget. 3 months after the summit, I stood on the balcony of a cliffside villa in the Drakensberg, barefoot in a linen sundress, watching mist roll off the mountains like secrets finally set free. The retreat had been everything we promised ourselves and more. No schedules, no mirrors, just women, wine, and the kind of conversations that stitch souls back together. We hiked at dawn, journals tucked under arms, writing letters to our younger selves on rocks we later tossed into the river. We cooked pap and braai under star-drenched skies, trading stories of exes who became footnotes and dreams that had grown wings. One night, around the fire, Naya pulled out her phone and played a voice note. David had sent her, yes, her begging for my new number, promising he'd changed, asking if I was happy. We listened in silence, flames crackling, then burst into laughter so loud the hyenas answered from the valley. Girl, Thandi said, wiping tears, he's out here auditioning for a sequel nobody ordered. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel longing. I felt finished. Like a chapter I'd underlined, annotated, and gently closed. The next morning, I woke before sunrise, slipped into the yogashala alone, and rolled out my mat. As the sky shifted from indigo to rose, I moved through sun salutations that felt like prayers. Each breath in, I release what no longer serves. Each breath out, I make space for what does. By the time the others joined, I was glowing in a way that had nothing to do with highlighter. That afternoon, we planted a small lemon tree in the garden, a living reminder of the weekend. Lerato pressed a seed into my palm. For your new home, she said. Wherever it is, may it always smell like possibility. I tucked it into a matchbox, carried it home like a talisman. Back in Johannesburg, life accelerated in the best way. My media company signed a deal with a global streaming platform to produce a docuseries on African women redefining power. The first episode, The Price of Silence, featuring clips from the summit, interviews with retreat sisters, and a segment where I read anonymous letters from women who'd finally blocked the man who blocked their peace. The premiere party was held on the same rooftop where David and I had met 2 years earlier. I wore red, not for him, but for every woman who'd ever felt invisible. The room overflowed with queens in every shade of bold laughter, champagne, speeches that ended in group hugs. A producer from Los Angeles pulled me aside. We want to take this international tour, book, the works. I signed the contract on a napkin because the moment felt too electric for paperwork. David showed up that night, uninvited but not unwelcome. He stood at the edge of the crowd, hands in pockets, watching me command the room. When our eyes met, he smiled, small, respectful, a little sad. I nodded once, then turned back to the woman tugging my sleeve, eager to share how my words had saved her from a marriage that was draining her dry. Later, as the party wound down, he approached. You look untouchable, he said. I laughed, light and genuine. I'm not untouchable, David. I'm just not for sale anymore. He started to speak, but I placed a hand on his arm. You taught me something valuable. Thank you. Now go teach yourself. I walked away, heels steady, heart full. Months later, the lemon seed sprouted on my kitchen windowsill, tiny green leaves reaching for light. I named it Audrey, after the poet who said, "Your silence will not protect you." Every morning, I water it while recording voice notes for the women in my membership community, thousands strong now, from Atlanta to Abuja, sharing wins, setbacks, and screenshots of blocked numbers like trading cards. We have a ritual. Every full moon, we post one boundary we've set, one dream we've chased, one man we've outgrown. The feed becomes a living testament that choosing yourself is contagious. Last week, a teenager in Detroit messaged me. I broke up with my boyfriend because he ignored my texts for 3 days straight. I thought I'd die. Instead, I joined debate club and won first place. Thank you for showing me I am the prize. I printed her words, added them to the gallery wall that now spans an entire room. David reached out one last time, 6 months after the rooftop. A simple email. I see you everywhere. I'm proud. I'm sorry. I'm learning. I replied with a single line. Keep learning. The right woman is waiting for the man you're becoming. Then I archived the thread and booked a solo trip to Zanzibar, where I swam with dolphins at sunrise and wrote the outline for my book on a beach towel. The working title? Teach Him the Price of Ignoring You, a love letter to every woman who chose herself. As I sit here now, watching Audrey's leaves unfurl, I think about the girl who once cried over blue ticks and cancelled plans. She was never weak. She was waking, And every woman reading this, every sister scrolling late at night, wondering if she's asking for too much, hear me? You are not too much. You are exactly enough. And the moment you believe that, the world rearranges itself to prove you right. Your silence is not absence, it is sovereignty. Your standards are not walls. They are welcome signs for the love that deserves to walk through your door. So water your own garden, speak your truth, even when your voice shakes. Walk away from anything that makes you feel small, because the space you reclaim becomes the runway for your becoming. And when you rise, take someone with you. Tag her, text her, tell her she's next, because the revolution isn't coming, it's already here in every woman who decides her heart is not a revolving door, it's a throne. If this story moved you, if it lit even a spark of I deserve more, then hit subscribe, drop a comment with the boundary you're setting today, like this video, and share it with the sister who needs to hear she's the main character. New episodes drop every Tuesday. Real talk, real tools, real transformation. Don't miss the next chapter of your own becoming.